practice live, no batting practice. But there will be. We're coming right up. What's happening, everybody? Jahmai Webster, happy to be here with you alongside Deven Marrero, a Red Sox baseball analyst, and you're tuning in to Red Sox batting practice live, and we're waiting on some batting practice. So I'm sure it may happen here at some point, maybe at least some defensive drills.
We'll get some defensive
day
guys
after
out
night,
here.
right?
Some defensive guys, a long road trip.
Yeah.
Kind of get them rested and chilling, maybe do some early work here and there, but BP, probably not.
I was going to say.
Not a whole squad BP today,
Right.
Unfortunately.
What's that like from a player's perspective? Like, day after night, I always hear guys, I'm like, hey, man, can I get you for 2 minutes tomorrow? And then they're like, oh, day after night? Oh, it's going to be tough, man. I hear that all the time. So what's the hard part about coming here and getting to the yard and getting into your routine after a day game or after a night game and start a day game?
Well, I mean, nowadays, it's, we have doctors in there and all the analytics and all the numbers and stuff like that to kind of tell guys when to rest, when not to do early work, when not to hit BP and stuff like that. But everyday players, man, it's a grind. And most of those guys have a routine in the batting cage that they could do just in the batting cage. You don't have to come out here and sweat. It's hot during the summer right now.
Yeah.
So those guys need to chill out and kind of just do the routine quietly in the cage and just hang out.
Well, we got a little bit a cooler day here, 82 degrees right now at Fenway. It certainly is beautiful. Humidity is low. I'm feeling good about last night's walk-off victory and the Fenway Greens again. They got 5 wins in those uniforms. All of them are walk-offs. How crazy is that?
That's so good. I love it. They're going to wear them during the playoffs, I hope. They're going to wear those as much as possible. But they're feeling sexy in those greens. And those greens are sick. Those are the best alternate uniforms in the game right now. Those are pretty tight.
I would love to rock those at some point, right? They came around much too late, but they certainly have yielded the victories for the squad, and it's been great to see. And it was a must-win last night, coming off of a 5-2 road trip. Or a 6 games, so a 2-4 road trip. My math is off this morning, so I'm feeling a little bit off as well.
So but you don't need early work today.
Yeah.
You're doing some early work right now. You need to chill and relax and get in the shade and get ready for the game.
Definitely. I would love to do that, but they're putting us both to work here today. But yeah, after the Red Sox coming off that road trip, but they felt like they could have went 4-2. They could have even, went 500 at the least. So it's pretty disappointing. But you're playing 2 great teams, but also, you feel like you can compete against those guys. San Diego obviously got themselves in a position to be tops in the National League West after facing the Red Sox and another team in the following series, even though they lost last night to the Dodgers, so they're now tied. But a great team, primed for the playoffs. Talking about the Houston Astros, who have done it over multiple years. Alex Bregman came from over there. They have a history of winning over the last few. So you would like to play better against those teams because you could be seeing them down the line, especially if you see the Padres later. You're seeing them in the winner take all, right?
Yeah.
But I felt like last night was a good opportunity for the team to try to get back on track and then have to grind through one. Sandy Alcantara, that dude is not an easy out, right? That was tough. So to me, it just feels like these moments are building into some of the fortitude that's going to carry you out through the next 39 games.
Oh, 100%. Look, that road trip was tough, and they played better than their record. You look at those games, and they were in most of those games, and the pitching staff wasn't great, right? You look at those games, and they didn't really play their best baseball, but they were still in every game, which is something that you kind of can go to sleep at night and be like, hey, they're fine. They faced 2 great teams who are rolling at the moment. Houston getting Correa back, bolstering that lineup big time for them, and still in games. Crochet didn't have his best stuff, but they were still in that game. There's a lot of good things that came out of that road trip that maybe you look at the record, they were 2-4. That road trip sucked, but they played well against good teams when they really weren't having their best A game at the moment. But then you come home, a tough road trip, tough scheduling road trip. You go to San Diego and then you come to Houston, you have an off day. The guys got home at 5:30 in the morning, on Thursday. So kind of the off day is kind of a wash. You're feeling groggy and stuff on Friday morning, but these guys came out and battled, and Alcantara was on fire, dude. It just shows you why that guy's such a big trade chip, because when he is on, he's still one of the best in the game. And when you look at him, the velo is still up. The off-speed stuff is still there. It's just locating pitches for him this whole year. But when he's on, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. And that's why I think this offseason he's going to get dealt somewhere, because he just needs to get out of Miami and find a place where he's at a point in his career. He's made the money. not really about money for him anymore. It's
Right.
just about winning, you know. And the Marlins have a good little squad, good little competitive squad, a bunch of young guys who are hungry and want to stay in the big leagues and playing with nothing to lose, which is fun to see. You saw yesterday, those guys barrel up balls and they run the bases really well, play great defense. So this series is a series where the Red Sox need to take care of business, and they did last night, facing a concert, which is huge.
Yeah, and I mean, with him, too, coming off Tommy John, obviously, right? The location and having the accuracy to be able to pinpoint your pitches in the zone, that's usually the last thing that we hear that comes. But we saw flashes of greatness. I mean, he was perfect through 4. And then the Red Sox started to try to come along late. And I mean, still, to that point, they had only been able to string together 2 hits, which was nuts to be able to win. It's almost like stealing a victory. Like, 100%. You got to feel like we stole one here today with the offense kind of non-existent.
Oh, 100%, man. I think the big at-bat for me yesterday was Rafaela's. Like, he had a 10-pitch at-bat there in the 6th that kind of tired Sandy a little bit, and they made him start throwing more off-speed pitch, kind of got out of the zone against Anthony, and then flipped a bunch of curveballs and sliders to Bregman, and Bregman was just, he's seen enough of them already, and then had that great shot to right field. But that was a huge at-bat for Rafaela there for the squad to kind of just get things going for them there in the 5th.
So we're seeing a few more guys start to come out here and get ready for the game. And again, just some more defensive work, day after night type situation. But you mentioned something about just the routines and getting ready for a game and how guys can kind of dial that down a little bit when it's a day game and you're coming in here quick. But I'm curious about something, and I want to get your perspective on that, because when did you decide you were going to take BP? Because you're facing a guy like Cal Quantrill today. It's Alcantara yesterday, but Cal Quantrill. Was it based off of the pitcher that you were facing, or was it just strictly, this is my routine, this is how I do it when I need to abbreviate it on a day game?
Look, for me, like, I was a guy, I didn't play every day. So when I was in the big leagues, I still did all my work, all my infield work. I still did my BP work. But what's great now with all the technology, with the pitching machines that they put in the dugout and in the batting cage under the dugout, you can kind of replicate what you do in BP in the cage. So there's a lot of things now that they have in the batting cage that they usually only had on the field. So really not that big of a difference. But for me, my routine when I was in the minor leagues playing every day, you know, I kind of like, my infield routine, for example, was 10 ground balls at me, 10 to my left, 10 to my right, 10 double plays, and then call it a day. And then some days I would throw, and some days I wouldn't. So you just have to, these guys are playing every day. Like Trevor Story's playing every day. Bregman's playing every day. You know, Rafaela's playing every day. Duran's in there every day. So you kind of have to control yourself. And I think that's a learning curve. Like, you know, you saw Duran last year kind of struggle towards the end of the season.
Right.
He's never really played. He's never really played a full season. You know, and that's kind of, you have to control yourself with your work in the weight room. I'm sure he was in there every day last year. You know, because that's part of his routine. But he probably toned it down a little bit. Probably wasn't doing as many sets or as many reps. You know, so you have to kind of find your routine and find your body in those days where you're not really feeling, hey, I'm just going to do just one set today. Kind of just activate myself. It almost becomes more of a activation versus like a full routine type of deal.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. We're diving into the sports science here. But was weights a part of your routine as well? And what benefit did that provide? Because a lot of guys, and I mean, I'm talking about guys, especially some of the crazy closers, right? Like Kenley and Araldis and even Craig Kimbrell when he was here. And Matt Barnes, when he was closing for the Red Sox, what I found out is after a game, you really wouldn't find those guys in the clubhouse. They'd be in the weight room lifting weights after a game. And I thought that was interesting and didn't really understand the purpose behind it. But what would that be just to keep your body in line? I'm curious about it.
I mean, some guys like to get activated before the game and then do the strength stuff after the game. Like for me, I was a guy who played shortstop and third base and all over the infield. And I wanted my arm to feel loose during the game. So the days that I worked out, that I needed to work out, I would work out after the game to kind of get, like, feel tight, like while I was sleeping. So when I woke up the next day, then I would feel fresh. But if I would work out and do a bench press, you know, like before a game, then my throwing motion would be a little bit off. I'd feel a little bit tight and kind of be off a little bit. So it was more of activating myself and doing some fast twitch things before the game.
Gotcha.
And then doing the heavy lifting and kind of maintenance on myself after the games.
Okay, yeah, no, I understood that. And I found, too, that going back to another picture, as we're talking about, Rick Porcello, I used to find that he would run around here all the time getting the cardio up. And I'm like, don't you have a treadmill on the inside? But it's something about being outside, I guess, around the field that made it feel like you were really getting the work in.
Oh, 100%. I'm like that when it comes to cycling. I'm a huge cyclist. I cannot do the Peloton to save my life.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
I need the wind in my face. I need people honking at me. I need all the adversity, you know. So, like, you just want to feel like you're, especially here at Fenway Park, you want to get outside. And, you know, my biggest thing, you know, when me and Bogarts and Eddie was here and Christian Vasquez, you always caught us kicking soccer balls in the outfield, like before anyone got to the stadium. We'd go out there, and that was kind of like our cardio and do some sprint work. And then with some guys, we'd throw football, you know, so Latin guys don't know how to throw football. So I'd do that with the pitchers and Brock Holt and Mookie and those guys and Jackie. So you just find little things to kind of just get activated, get warmed up, because doing the same thing every day can be boring. And
that's the thing.
You know, so you come out here, kick the football around, play some soccer, and just do some sprints here and there. So you find little things to get activated, switch it up every once in a while so it doesn't seem just repetitive.
Right. I mean, 162 plus, man, that can get monotonous. That's almost like insanity. If you're doing the same routine every day, you got to freshen it up, which is making sense now, because you feel like a lot of guys are just messing around, right? Just throwing a football or just kicking it around and running around, but it's actually a part of the routine, and they're finding benefits from doing those exercises. So that's some great insight from you, Deven. And, you know, Red Sox getting ready to take on Cal Quantrill, as we talked about. Second of a 3-game series. Last time they faced Cal Quantrill, some interesting things happened at Coors Field, and I remember this very vividly because I was at this game, obviously. It actually was a big series, if you think about it, because not only did they have the blow-up with Cal Quantrill, but Alex Cora got his extension while we were out in Colorado as well, something that, you know, we didn't see or anticipate happening, but Craig Breslow flew into Denver. They got that deal done. But this was I believe it was the last game of the series, and we were traveling, if I'm finding that correctly in my memory. But it was just interesting. Cal Quantrill, he's kind of a fiery guy. He's pretty emotional and lets it be known. So even to this day, I don't know if we have the history behind him and Reese McGuire, but he had a history with the Red Sox. He had a few of those stare downs and verbal sparring with Rafael Devers when he was here as well. But this is his first start since that Colorado start. So I think, you know, baseball players have long memories. They're like elephants, right?
We don't forget, that's for sure.
So this got to be in the back of their minds.
Oh, 100%, dude. We don't forget stuff like that, you know, and these guys just have to stick to their approaches, and the last laugh is at the end of the game and the box score, you know, but just control your emotions. You know, I remember when Eddie did the whole watch thing to Correa, and AC was like, hey, don't do that. You know, you just handle your business. Your business talks for itself. You know, you let those guys scream and do what they want to do on the mound and let them be ridiculous. Yeah. But at the end of the day, whoever wins the games comes out on top.
So do you enjoy, I mean, you had a little bit of it, right? And you experienced of it during your playing days. But do you enjoy showing emotion and kind of, you know, being fired up for the moment? Or where does it cross the line for you then?
For me, I didn't play every day, you know, and for me, I kind of always just had a reputation of staying like this, you know. I mean, you get up for big moments, but I think I get more excited when other guys do something big. Now, that kind of like was my thing, because I was on the bench, you know, utility guy, and just pulling for the guys constantly. So when guys did something, I would go pretty nuts as opposed to when I did something for myself, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I'm all about emotion. You know, some guys need to play with emotions. I mean, a perfect example is Marcus Stroman. You know, me and him were tight our whole careers. We played Team USA together, and, you know, hanging out with him in Toronto, you know, there was one year, the first year he came out, he had, you know, he was quiet, he was chill, and he started getting like that personality on the mound, but he needed that personality. And then the next year they're like, hey, you need to tone that down a little bit. And he did for like a couple months, and he just wasn't the same pitcher. Just some guys need to have that aura, that confidence, and that personality, because that's when they're the best. And you don't want to take that away from players. Maybe you want to tone it down like a little bit. You know, Rondon in the playoffs last year, all jacked up like the first inning, then he got tired. You know,
that's true.
So you learn from those things, but that's really not him. You know what I'm saying? So kind of just be you, do what you have to do to be yourself. But some guys need that little F-U,
little extra,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That little BS in them. So
that's interesting. I always felt like, you know, anytime I'm competing, I need that little extra edge too. So I understand it from some guys, and we just saw a shot of Jarren Duran, who was sitting out there in the outfield. He was right in the mix of that Cal Quantrill situation, standing up for his teammate at the time, Reese McGuire. And, you know, many people maybe thought it was eyewash, but I think that's who he is. He's really protective of the guys that he's going to battle with on a daily basis. And, you know, that was one situation where he felt like he crossed the line. So It'll be interesting to see how these guys approach Cal Quantrill, who's on the mound for Miami today. And also from a perspective of, that was emotional. Obviously, you're facing them for the first time in about a year. And as you mentioned, Deven, these things are in the back of your mind. But these guys are professionals. They'll be able to handle their at-bats how they need to. And then, if a moment calls for it, then we may see a little bit of something, a jab back or whatnot.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you got to have that little fieriness in the dugout and within the guys. If you don't have that, then what are you playing for?
And this team has it.
Yeah, and this team definitely has it. And Bregman and Duran and Story, Rev Snyder has a little bit in him. He's the vet of this group, but he has a little fireness. I remember the back and forth I had with him when I was at ASU and he was at U of A. We had some crazy brawls with that team over there, but yeah, man, it's all about having passion, having your guys' backs. That's what
right.
Duran did last year for Reese. Just having the guys back so that when you're going into war, you got some guys that are behind you and supporting you and getting after it.
Right. No, it's fantastic, and now they're starting to take some live BP here. Jose David Flores throwing the BP. What's the key to throwing good BP when you're actually that guy on the mound, right? Because this is huge for preparation.
Oh, 100%. It's hard to find good BP guys, I tell you what. So when you find them, you keep them for a long time. And I never really threw BP. Never really made it that part of my career, But yeah, man, it's important. The job is to make the guys feel good and to let them work on what they need to work on. You have some guys that want to start with the away pitches, so if they got away, that's fantastic. And then you have the feel-good rounds at a little home run derby for the guys,
right.
But yeah, man, it's great to have good BP arms. That's kind of a lost art nowadays with all the guys doing machine work and all of that these days.
The trajects, as you talked about, that machine, you can get everything you want. Any pitcher you want, you can dial it up.
But there's some days where you just need to go out there and feel good and
see it, right? There's a benefit to seeing it on the field of play that day.
Yeah, machine beats you up more than you get it sometimes, you know what I mean? So there's some days where you have to get out there, get some BP, hit some balls off the monster, over the monster, and be like, all right, swing's working, and you need that feel-good moments every once in a while.
And you talked about this as well, Demo. There's a strategy to your BP, right? You do a couple of rounds, maybe 3 rounds. And at first, as you said, we're facing a pitcher maybe that is going to be dotting me away. So I want to be able to see that pitch, kind of set up my location for my strike zone and be able to handle that. So then the second time, then you want to just, focus on a point, right center field approach. I want to just start peppering them toward that direction. Then the last time, maybe as you said, I just want to groove one in there so I could just crack it.
Yeah, if you watch
right?
Wong's BP right there, the first round was just him peppering right center field, right field. You just have to. Everyone has a different routine. I remember Xander Bogaerts and Mookie Betts. Their first round was they just hit ground balls to second base. Second round, they hit line drives over second base. And then the third round, line drives to center, and then the last round they kind of let it eat a little bit from left center to right center, So everyone has their different routines and what makes their swing feel right. You just have to build it up during BP and just follow that routine, and you don't want to jump in the cage and just start hitting
right
for the fences,
There's a method to the madness.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
All right, well, we're just getting started here on the live BP show from Fenway Park. Jahmai Webster, Deven Marrero, we're talking with you for another 25, 35 minutes. We're going to take a short break, but come back with some more rounds from the Red Sox inside the cage, getting ready for Game 2. You are looking live back at Fenway Park, August 16, 2025. Red Sox and Marlins getting ready to take the field for Game 2 of their 3-game set. Red Sox with the walk-off victory last night. This is a live BP show. Red Sox taking batting practice at Fenway Park. Masataka Yoshida getting loose. He's back in the DH spot. Masa is a very strong guy. He just crushed one to right center field. As we get back here on the field, Jahmai, Webster, Deven, Marrero here with you. And Deven, we talked about this. This is probably round number 2 for Masa. It seems that he's got a pretty strategic idea to what he's trying to do with the few balls. He's trying to get in the air.
100% that he's been trying to work on this drive in the baseball, you know, because he has it in his bag to put the ball around and find holes and do all. Then the next level for him is driving the baseball. That's when he's at his
metrics up there for you too. They're telling the exit velocity angle. Is there a particular that you're trying to get to when you're in P? Like, I want to be able to, you know, really pick up the speed on this.
Home run guy, so I kind of knew where I was at, what I tried to do. So I wanted to keep low line drives. I knew low line drives for me would play in the game. You know, as soon as my swing got big, I would get in trouble. You know, that's kind of something I battled with, was just hitting low line drives and driving the baseball. Like on a low line drive, having that good backspin, because the ball will travel on its own during the game when you lift it.
So we hear this a lot, and velocity, I think probably those early years when I began doing this, some of your first years with the Red Sox, 2017-18, was when you started to really see guys. I mean, back in the bullpen had stuff. Like, it was dudes everywhere, right? You're not really taking a break on anything. So I would hear a lot of hitters talk about, you know, when you're throwing that fast, all you got to do is touch it, right? Like, he provides the power, and then you barely get it out there. How much of that was a factor in your mind when you're facing a guy who threw high-level velo?
Well, I think the good thing now is these BP guys, you know, they kind of throw from closer and they kind of let it eat a little bit, kind of replicate some bat speed. But people forget, man, when you're trying to hit the ball in the air and getting big in the cage and in BP, the mouth power is almost triple the time during a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you want to kind of stay short, compact, and just keep that same swing during the game, because then, like you said, the mouth power will then allow you to drive the baseball and your swing will work properly. Whereas, like, because if you're trying to hit homers in the cage, that swing's not going to translate into the game. So you're almost taking 2 different swings, game versus BP, and you kind of want to keep the same. And you'll watch Bregman here jump into the cage, and he's one of those guys that just drives the baseball. You'll see his first round just hit line drives the other way, and he's a guy. He's a pull hitter. You know? He really wants to work on hitting the ball hard, line drives, and creating that spin in BP, and not really trying to do too much. See this round right here,
nice and easy swing right there.
Shooting the ball the other way, low line drives the other way, because he knows that swing plays in the game.
And I'm curious about this too. I see different guys in the setup. We're looking at his feet here, and he's almost middle of the plate with his front left foot and almost behind it. Is that because when you're in a game, you want to see those strikes come across the plate, so you got a pretty good idea what the zone is?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, but majority of hitters stand in the back of the batter's box, and, you know, when you have guys throwing 100, you kind of want to give as much of a chance as you can. So you see a lot of guys get to that back line. Sometimes maybe they'll, like, rub the back line and kind of get past it a little bit, kind of give them some time. But then you have some guys that, you know, like Crochet, you saw Deven the other day scoot up on the plate to get that off speed earlier before it kind of has that bite to it. So it just depends on your swing, kind of how you like to handle things, where you like to see the ball and see the ball hit the bat. So, but everybody stands in the back of the batter's box. You know, at this level, guys are bringing the heat, and you want to give yourself as much of a chance as you can. And the further back you are, the longer you're going to see the ball. I know it's just that much of a difference, but it's
those
a big
milliseconds,
difference.
though.
Oh, 100%.
They make a difference.
100%.
And then also, is maybe your positioning in the batter's box, is it contingent upon who you're facing, the type of stuff that they have too? Like, if there's a guy who's going to spin it, you might want to do what Maurice Dubon did, as you mentioned a couple weeks ago in Houston, or last week in Houston, excuse me, where you stepped up a little bit so you can get to the ball before you get that late breaking action.
Yeah, you don't see that often anymore, you know, because everyone's just throwing nasty stuff. And maybe back in the day where you had more thumbers and guys who threw heat like we see nowadays. But, and for me, it's where you see guys differentiate getting into the batter's box is how close they are to the home plate and then how far they are from home plate. You know, there's guys that love the ball in on their hands, you know, so they get up on the plate. You know, they have good inside ball hitters versus guys who don't like the ball in, so they get off the plate and then it makes everything over the plate seem far away, which is where they like their path to be. So you'll see more of that in versus away from home plate versus up close to the pitcher and then in the back of the batter's box. It all depends on your swing and where you like the baseball. You know, we all have our heat maps, right? We all know our heat maps. You know, for example, Bregman's heat map is everywhere, but he likes to pull the ball.
Right.
I mean,
so those inside pitches, he can really.
So he's in like a standard spot, you know, but you have some guys that want to be further from home plate to kind of get their arms extended, where like a pitch inside for them turns into a pitch middle.
Right.
A pitch middle turns into a pitch away, which is where they like the ball to be. That's where their heat map is.
And where you can get your barrel on the ball, too.
Exactly. That's it.
One thing I am curious about, too, because when it's a new group comes in here for their round of batting practice and they go on a new session, the first thing that they do is bunt. Is that a timing thing? What is that?
That's the thing. You just want to see the ball, you know. And
gotcha.
Like for me, For me, that was part of my routine because that was part of my game. You know, for example, Bregman will never bunt in his life because he rakes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but that's just you trying to see the ball. You know, there's times where I would be in a slump and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna lay one down. Because when you get the bat out there and you show for a bunt, your eyes are right eye level with the bat. So you're really seeing the ball, seeing the seams, and that sometimes will get you back locked into seeing the baseball better. But bunting is just something that has been ingrained into a lot of players. You know, it's not a thing in the game nowadays, but still is important in my opinion. You know, everyone should know how to bunt, except unless you're like a David Ortiz or something like that, right? But yeah, man, bunting your first round is just all about seeing the baseball and seeing the ball hit the barrel as close as possible.
Gotcha. And so pitchers have made this statement as far as being out in the bullpen before a start or being out in the bullpen before a relief appearance and then coming into the game. And really the two have nothing to do with each other. But as a hitter, do you feel like, wow, that was an awesome round of BP and it's translated into a game for you?
Dude, it's funny because remember I had a terrible BP, that last one that I took off, I'm getting 2 hits today. You know, it's just, that's why baseball's so unique, man. You could feel so good and everything just will click and be right. And you're going 0 for 4 with 3 Ks.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why baseball to me is the hardest sport in the world, because everything can be perfect. And for example, you can have a perfect shot, no one can block it or have goaltending. You know what I mean? That still counts as 2 points. You know, so for me, man, it's all about just staying level, stay even keel, and just make sure you're doing your work and you're getting the feel. It's not about how far the ball is going. Just, hey, are my feels right? Am I getting my hands to where I want to be? Is my load getting back there? Am I seeing the ball? And that's the most important thing that you want to feel. It's not really, oh, I hit the ball 8 times over the monster today, or I was really driving the baseball. It's more, hey, are my feels there? Perfect. My cues are in line. I'll be good for the game.
Yeah, and you know what else is interesting? We're talking about Alex Bregman, who's just waiting for his next chance to come in here in the cage and take a few hacks, but he's very methodical about it, and very much like J.D. Martinez when he was here. He's got a hitting coach of his own, right?
Yep.
And he's taking feedback from him and he's saying, where was I at here? Because you work with a lot of guys, and you know, you think about professional basketball players in the same regard. They have their coaches, their team on the outside of what you get in the facility, just investing in their body, investing in their craft. And he's one of the guys who does it too. And it's interesting because of how obsessive he is about hitting. And one thing that I noticed during the games as well, after every at-bat, he's locked into conversations almost immediately with the assistant hitting coach, Dylan Lawson, and talking with Pete Fatsy about what they saw. And sometimes it's just literally them face to face, and he's getting up in his stance, and they say, oh, you were leaning out, leaking out over the plate, or you were here. And they get him back to those cues, and that stuff works. And the conversations around the cage are beneficial as well for getting yourself locked into what you need to do in the game.
100%. I always say the hitting coach's job is to be your eyes, you know, because there's things that they're going to see that you're not going to see when you're in the batter's box, you know, and the communication between your hitting coaches, no matter if it's on the team or a guy that you have personally, they need to know what your cues are and what you like to feel and be comfortable with what you're looking for. And when you have that good communication, at the end of the day, it's all about what the player needs. It's about the player in these situations. And for example, Bregman has his guy, but he also trusts Pete, and the hitting coaches here to kind of let him know what he needs. Everyone has their role, and as long as you understand their role and the communication is there and there's no disrespect,
right.
You're not trying to be rude or disrespectful, not telling them, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Hey, no, I need everybody. This is a team thing, and everyone has their job. Hey, I need you to look at my lower half today. Where are my hands today? Where do you see that my body is moving today on this pitch versus that guy? And I think that's the thing that Bregman brings to this ball club is the communication. There's a time in the game where we didn't have iPads in the dugout, right? So you'd see us strike out, and then as we're walking back, we'd stop and talk to the guy on next. I go, hey, the slider's moving like this today. Like, make sure you see him up. Make sure you see it up and close to you. Has a little bit more of a wrinkle than we saw in the video today. Has a little bit more giddy up on the fastball, trying to stay on top of it. That's kind of how we communicated with each other back in the day, where now we have the iPads and all of that. But I think Bregman has brought that communication back into the dugout, which is so important for these young guys. Because all these young guys grew up on the iPad,
right?
And they saw everything on the iPad and not actually seeing the game. You're seeing the iPad for a whole inning. You also then missed what that pitcher is doing to the next batters that it probably was going to do to you the next time as well. You know what I mean? So that's where the iPad is your hitting coaches in this instance, where you let them kind of tell you what they saw. And all these guys are so good, man.
Yeah.
Pete has these guys locked in, and he knows what he's talking about. He's been around the game for a long time. And so you trust guys like that, that have been there, done that, and know what they're talking about.
Most definitely, and we're getting it all from here at the Live BP show at Fenway Park as the Red Sox get ready for Game 2 against the Miami Marlins. We're going to take another short break. Be back on the other side with more commentary from myself and Deven Marrero. Stay with us. Back here at Fenway Park, you were watching Red Sox taking live BP action from Fenway as they get ready for Game 2 against the Miami Marlins of their 3-game series. You saw Alex Bregman signing some autographs there for the fans. Always got time to show them some love after 3 grueling rounds of batting practice, trying to get ready for the game as we bring you back here. Field side, Jahmai, Webster, Deven Marrero here with you, and it seemed like a pretty good session for the guys. I mean, considering the way the offense was yesterday, I feel like they got some good work in.
Well, I'm just saying, you just had a couple guys come out here, take a couple swings, some feel-good swings, and Bregman just did 3 rounds. Yoshida got in there.
Surprising, right?
Yeah,
3 rounds. But
that's just a feel thing. He just want to come out here and kind of feel some things, kind of see the ball travel on the field, because it's different in the batting cage. Ball can only go so far and so high in the cage. But really, you get out here, you kind of see the ball travel a little bit more, kind of feel. He probably went in the cage, worked on some things. Like, hey, let me see if it translates onto the field. I want to see what the ball is doing on the field. Yeah,
he was just mimicking with his on-the-field coach doing one of these numbers. You know, he's got that nice level swing, and he gets that shoulder up so he can hit the ball right on plane. So locking into some of those cues are probably important for him when going into the batter's box. And, you know, golf is a game that we talk about a lot, and Jim is always getting on my golf game. That's a whole nother story for a different show. But very technical aspects of baseball as well. When you think about all the mechanical things that you try to lock in, and you don't try to boggle your mind down with that, especially when you're struggling, I'd imagine. You just want to kind of see the ball and hit it. But when you're going right and you can actually kind of factor some of those things into your game, I'm sure that helps working on the mechanics and making sure that's locked in as well.
Oh, 100%. You know, when you're feeling good, you're not thinking about anything, but you need to be thinking about those cues that make you feel good, so that when you're going bad, you can go back to those cues, you know. So it's important to still continue your work, and that's why I always say stay consistent with your work. You know, the more consistent you are with your work, when you're having those slump weeks or those slump days, you can always go back to something that you know works and get you in that right feel in that right spot. And you see Bregman, who's been on fire lately, just still coming out here trying to feel those feels, you know, and not just riding the wave, oh, I'm high right now, I'm just going to chill, I don't really need to do much. It's still doing what you need to do to get ready for the game, and that just stays like this the whole time.
That's a great point that you make. Once that you have something locked in, you don't just step away, you continue the work. And that's something that he's brought to this team, as you talked about, too. And I told this story on one of the telecasts before about the book that he was reading called Atomic Habits, which basically, you know, the Cliff Notes, and I brought it to the pregame show. It states that if you do the small things over and over, try to perfect that, it creates to more bigger moments and positive momentum towards, you know, the larger goal in mind. But it starts with the small things first, paying attention to detail. And that's what he does on a nightly basis. And we just saw, you know, Walker Buehler and Garrett Whitlock out there, and some of the pitchers getting ready for this game as well. I mean, these guys have gotten some great starts at home. We saw Lucas Giolito able to have another quality start last night. And the Miami Marlins are a team that, you know, they might not have the big showy, flashy names, but they do a lot of little things right. They played really good defense last night.
Yeah, the Marlins is a team where they have a bunch of young guys that are trying to prove themselves that they belong in the big leagues. And when you have guys like that, they're really playing with nothing to lose. So they're just going out there and playing hard and doing the little things right. And that's what that team has to do. You know, they play great defense. They run the bases really well. And they barrel up a lot of balls. In the last 2 weeks, they're one of the best teams that hard hit balls on the barrel. So they're a team that you just can't take lightly. You know, they played Cleveland really well. They had some great games with them this past weekend. But like you saw last night, you know, 4 doubles against Giolito. They just couldn't have that extra base hit to kind of create more runs for Alcantara. Yeah. But yeah, these guys they're a good ball club, man. And I always say every team in the big leagues can beat you on any given night. So when you're not coming prepared, that's why I think the Red Sox have been so consistent this year. Is they're probably one of the best prepared teams in the game right now. That's why the Dodgers always have success. That's why Houston has a lot of success, because they come prepared with a game plan every night. Don't take any team for granted, and they just show up and do the little things right, like you said about Bregman, and that stuff carries on and lasts throughout the whole season.
I know you got to run to pregame, and you've been giving us some great insights here down on the field level, but get your quick take on this as we get ready for another Brayan Bello start. You know, he's coming off maybe some tough ones after having a really consistent stretch. What are your expectations for him tonight? What does he have to do to try and keep that momentum that was built by Lucas Giolito last night?
I think if you watched Lucas last night, what you saw from him was he just pounded the strike zone with the fastball and with every pitch. And that's when Bello's at his best, when he's working that sinker and just pounding the strike zone, because his stuff is so nasty that he's the kind of guy that can beat a team with just 2 pitches. But now has a third and a fourth pitch that are more consistent. They're getting more consistent as the season goes on. But when he gets in trouble is when he's out of the strike zone. Just go after these guys. No walks. Just let them put the ball in play. You have a great defense, and let the defense work. That sinker is one of the best sinkers in the big leagues. But when it's in the strike zone, that's when he's at his best.
Yeah. All right, we'll be looking for that for Brayan Bello tonight. Masataka Yoshida back in the lineup. He's DHing for the Red Sox. Roman Anthony, he's leading off again. And as we mentioned Roman real quick.
You have to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, almost a 400 on base, right? Being a rookie. Just, can you put that into context, how impressive this kid has been? Because he's getting a lot of conversations around him, a lot of hype, but I'm not sure a lot of people may not really understand how impressive this kid is.
I mean, when you hear Alex Bregman, say he's one of the best hitters that he's seen in the big leagues right now.
Right.
Just a couple months into his big league career. This kid has something that you don't see often, and that's the plate discipline and the confidence where you don't see the moment get too high for him. I mean, how many times have we seen him in the 9th or in the 8th inning had that big walk or that big hit or that big home run so early in his career? It's just something that it's not by coincidence. It's not luck. You know, he's one of those guys that is prepared, and he has a good group behind him in Cora and Bregman and Story that kind of have guided him and helping him sustain the success that he's had. But that kid's impressive, man. I mean, every day when I'm in the booth or watching the games, I always just look at TC or Jim when he does something. I'm like, dude, it's just every game. There's just something like, this kid's unbelievable. He just does something little and something different every game that just gets you going, wow. And you have other big leaguers and your teammates have been doing it for a long time say that about you, that means something.
Yeah, certainly high praise. High praise for you, Deven. This was fun, man.
Always.
Thanks for joining me. Always great to see you.
Always.
We're going to kick it over to pregame later, which we'll be able to find you on with the Hall of Famer Jim Rice and Tom Caron as well. I'll be on the game tonight or this afternoon and bringing you some more insights and stories. For now, we're saying goodbye. I'm Jahmai Webster for Deven Marrero. Thanks for checking in with us, watching Live BP from Fenway Park. See you guys later.